My name is Lena and I've been married to my husband Marcus for almost 3 years. Lately I've been feeling a bit tired of our relationship. My mom is coming over this weekend, so I suggested Marcus stay home while I go out. He responded, really, you're telling me to stay at home, but what about you, Marcus? Where are you going? He brushed it off, saying it didn't matter where he went. Usually we don't interfere with each other's plans, but things change when my mother-in-law visits. She doesn't seem to like me and always asks no kids yet to minimize contact with her. I asked Marcus to understand my concerns, but he didn't take me seriously. He argues that his mother never says anything unpleasant, which makes me feel like he ignores my feelings. It's painful that Marcus doesn't believe me even when I tell him how his mother treats me when he's not around. The day she visited, Marcus left without canceling his plans. When my mother-in-law arrived, I hesitated to open the door, but I eventually did. She immediately started with her intrusive questions. Can I expect to hear news of a grandchild soon? How are things at night? Are you doing well? I cringed at her invasion of privacy. Her constant questioning about children stresses me out, but she doesn't realize it. She blames me, saying things like, you're utterly unreliable, you must think properly about children. What a useless daughter-in-law. It never crosses her mind that the reason for not having children might lie with Marcus. He ignores the truth and leaves me to deal with his mother. I'm losing the desire to have children with him, imagining he would likely ignore the baby and leave all the childcare to me. So no matter how much my mother-in-law insists on holding a grandchild, it's impossible because I don't want children myself. Yet she continues her time blaming my body and my attitude. After she left, I called my father-in-law and told him how she spoke to me. He apologized, acknowledging her behavior. My father-in-law, a close friend of my father, had always been on my side. Unlike my mother-in-law, she once had an affair, and although they stayed together for the children, the trust was gone. My mother-in-law's lack of confidence led her to treat me coldly and vent her stress on me just when life felt constrained. A shocking event struck. My father passed away suddenly, and a month later my father-in-law died too. Despite my grief, Marcus and my mother-in-law continued to pressure me. At my father's funeral, she spread a rumor about my father having a huge debt which I had never heard of. Marcus, informed by his mother, looked at me with hostility. My father-in-law had defended me, but after his death Marcus and my mother-in-law's behavior worsened. One morning they called me over with a stern face. Marcus said, your father left a debt when he died, didn't he? I had recently learned from a lawyer that my father left a debt of 2 million, but how did Marcus know this? I had no intention of covering up the debt. Why did you keep quiet? Are you afraid of being abandoned by me? Did you plan to use my money to pay off the debt? Of course not, I replied. I hadn't mentioned the debt, but it wasn't for any ulterior motive. My father had 2 million in debt, but I wouldn't need to pay it if I renounced the inheritance. Just as I was about to explain, Marcus and my mother-in-law presented me with divorce papers. What a disappointment, a money-eating bug. You have your father's DNA making debts. I can't be with a woman like that. Let's get divorced. I wanted to explain that I didn't need to pay the debt, but I hesitated. Life in this house was already full of stress, especially now that both my father and father-in-law were gone. It seemed wise to get divorced while Marcus wanted it rather than stay in a house surrounded by enemies. Let's get divorced, I said. Signing the papers, Marcus and my mother-in-law left happily, saying they would have a lavish dinner to celebrate while they were away. I started packing my belongings with the help of a friend. As I was leaving, I heard them say, good riddance. It feels refreshing, finally a relief. Ignoring their happy voices, I left without looking back. Afterward, I reported my divorce to my company and started a new life at a new workplace. Being single, I was transferred to a subsidiary in a distant city. Despite it being a subsidiary, I was given an important position and my salary increased. Then Marcus and my mother-in-law started contacting me demanding money back. What's going on? Give me back my money right now. I was honestly confused. Marcus's sudden contact and the mention of money left me in a panic. After calming down, I realized it was about the inherit. A few days ago, I was asked to go to Marcus and my mother-in-law's place for the reading of my father-in-law's will. Why am I involved in this? I asked Marcus, who grudgingly replied that the lawyer had told him to call me. Initially, Marcus seemed displeased, thinking his father's inheritance might go to his ex-wife, but the reality was Different. All of your father's 8 million inheritance goes to the former wife, the lawyer announced. Marcus and my mother-in-law were too shocked to say anything. The meeting ended without any progress and I left a few days later. Marcus contacted me again, unable to accept the reality. Give back the money, he demanded. What money are you talking about? I don't owe you any money, I replied. You stole my inheritance, he insisted. Was that inheritance yours? I asked. Marcus seemed to believe he was entitled to it as a son. His father had said he wouldn't leave the inheritance to his mother due to her affairs, so she also expected it to go to Marcus. However, the inheritance was willed to me. Do something. I thought I had an inheritance and paid off the house mortgage in full. Now I'm out of money. Marcus's unplanned actions had left him in a bind. I couldn't help but laugh. It's rude to laugh at your husband, he snapped. We're not married anymore, are we? We're divorced and living separate lives. Marcus fell silent. His scolding didn't scare me anymore. I decided to bring up something I hadn't said before. Also, isn't there still a payment due? Aren't you going to pay it yet? Payment? What are you talking about? He asked, confused. Don't you remember the nightclub expenses I covered for you? You still haven't paid me back, have you? Marcus had completely forgotten about it. I reminded him of the time he overspent on his favorite girl at a nightclub, accumulating a debt of 10,000. I couldn't help but laugh at the irony of him ridiculing my father's debt while being in a similar situation. He had promised to pay me back after our divorce but never kept that promise. After my life stabilized post-divorce, I planned to consult a lawyer to recover the money. That plan was temporarily shelved due to the inheritance from my father-in-law. If you're going to demand so much money from me, I can't just overlook the debt. Marcus seemed baffled by being confronted. No, please make the payment. 110,000. You're getting too cocky, aren't you? I can't believe you're inheriting 8 million just because your father and my father were close. Marcus was trying to dodge the issue of debt again. Changing the topic wouldn't resolve anything, so I decided to speak calmly and firmly. I didn't just receive the 8 million when your father's company was in crisis. My father supported it. That's when his 2 million debt was incurred. Although my father-in-law's company appeared profitable, it faced a difficult situation. At one point my father helped by incurring debt, trying to pay it off silently, but he died leaving the 2 million debt. My father-in-law knew why the debt existed. He told me he wanted to leave all his property and cash to me because the company's survival was thanks to my father. I tried to refuse, but he said, if you don't want it you can donate it, just don't give it to Marcus and his mother. That's when I learned a shocking truth. Marcus looked confused. Do you think you originally had the right to receive it? What do you mean? He asked. My father died leaving an inheritance of 8 million, but you're not blood related to your father. What? How do you know that? After discovering my mother-in-law's affair, my father-in-law secretly conducted a DNA test to confirm paternity. It turned out that Marcus and my father-in-law were not blood related, since Marcus's biological father couldn't afford to raise a child. My father-in-law decided to take Marcus in. Moreover, my father-in-law recently discovered something shocking. Marcus and my mother-in-law were secretly dining out with the affair partner behind my father-in-law's back. They had been treating him like a wallet for a long time. Upon learning this, my father-in-law decided not to leave the inheritance to them. When I explained this, Marcus responded with a mix of surprise and embarrassment. So my father knew about that. He finally seemed to understand why he wasn't receiving the inheritance. With that realization, I felt confident in what I had to say. Don't forget about the 10,000. I'll a lawyer if necessary to recover it. Hey Sophia, can't we start over? It seemed he hoped that reconciling with me would give him access to the 8 million. However, I no longer loved Marcus and had no intention of enduring my mother-in-law's cold words again. I have no intention of starting over, I said, and hung up the phone. Marcus later went to my workplace, but since I had already informed the company about him, they told him there's no employee by that name here. Moreover, I was at a distant subsidiary, so it's unlikely we'll meet again. Marcus and his mother thought I had quit my job because I received the 8 million later after hiring a lawyer. The 110,000 was promptly paid. Presumably he must have borrowed money, as he supposedly had no savings due to the loan repayment when my father died, leaving debts. Marcus abandoned me. Now it seems he's in debt and on the receiving end of abandonment. If he had someone who understood him like my father, maybe he could have been helped, but with his character that seems unlikely. After repaying the debt, he's living with his noisy mother, working from morning till night to pay off the debt. I'm in a faraway place, planning to use the 8 million inheritance when necessary, and currently living a relaxed life.